Hare Krishna. Welcome to our discussion on the Ramayan characters. This will be a series of talks wherein we will discuss about the various important characters in the Ramayana one by one. We'll start with the generation of Ram's parents. We'll discuss about Dasharath Maharaj and his queens. Then we'll discuss about the characters in Ram's generation, and correspondingly we'll discuss other characters like the Varnaras and the Rakshasas also. The Ramayan's enduring significance and appeal comes from its portrayal of various relationships in evocative terms. The various relationships, such as those between husband and wife, or parents and children, or brothers and brothers, brothers and sisters, friends, allies, all these are depicted in a captivating panorama in the Ramayana. And the beauty of these relationships is they all talk about a journey. Every relationship essentially is a journey. It's a journey from me to we. To the extent we can expand our self-conception to include the other, to that extent the journey is successful. And to the extent we don't or can't expand our self-conception, thus where the me doesn't become we, the me remains me, then the relationship remains unstable and it's unlikely to be sustainable. So the Ramayana depicts how various characters embark on this journey. Some fail to start off also, some make it half the way, and some go along the full way, and some go further than what we can imagine in their total selflessness in the relationships. So let's begin with the character of Dasharath. Now, Dasharath Maharaj is the foremost of the kings of the world during his times. He is the reigning monarch of the Raghuvamsha. That is the dynasty that has descended from the great king Ikshvaku. Ikshvaku is a famous king who is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita also as the recipient of spiritual knowledge from higher celestial sources. Imam vivasvate yogam proktavanam avyayam vivaswan manave praha manurikshvakave bravit. So Krishna says, I give this knowledge to the predominating deity of the sun, that is Surya Deva Vivaswan. From him, the knowledge came down to Manu, who is considered the primeval human being, and from Manu it's come down to Ikshvaku. So Ikshvaku is in many ways considered to be the first in the Surya Vamsha or the Raghu Vamsha. Surya means sun, so this is a solar dynasty. The two prominent dynasties in India, the solar and the lunar. And every king in the dynasty is in his own way glorious. Dasharath was the son of the king named Aja, and his mother was Indumati. And he was as a prince, he was very bold and valorous. And as a king, he was very righteous and very generous. As he continued performing his royal duties, over time he recognized that an important part of his royal duty was incomplete. There were people, we as living beings in this world have various duties. So if you are part of a particular family, one responsibility in the family is continuing the dynasty, to have a worthy heir who can carry on the responsibilities and the legacy that one has created. So he needed such an heir, and he did not have such an heir. He had three principal queens. Kaushalya was the eldest queen, then Sumitra was the middle queen, and Kaikeyi was the third queen. So Kaushalya was from Magadha, Sumitra was from Kashi, and Kaikeyi was from the kingdom of Kekeya. So they were all virtuous and chaste wives. They were great princes who became his queens, and yet somehow Dasharath just couldn't beget any children. Now he had one daughter Shanta, and he had another friend Rompad Maharaj, who was also a very virtuous king, but unfortunately he also couldn't have a child. So Dasharath also himself did not have any child. When he had a daughter, he offered her to his friend Rompad Maharaj, and Rompad Maharaj grew the child. So she was known as Shanta, and she grew up and she became a beautiful young woman. And Dasharath Maharaj was trying in various ways to do a to somehow beget a child so that he could have an heir for his kingdom, especially. He considered a very important duty to his citizens, and he considered an important duty to his ancestors. Because in the Vedic tradition, it is understood that one needs one needs a heir uh, to be to perform the to perform the shraddha, the final rites. And if there is no such heir, then it becomes a serious problem. So Dasharath Maharaj, desiring to have such an heir, decided to actually move onwards and perform some yajnas. So he had his priests, he had several priests. The prominent among them was the chief royal priest, that was Vashishta. And he consulted Vashishta, and then Vashishta, he expresses heart's Dasharath expressed his heart's concern, and Vashishta responded by saying that yes, surely you deserve a male heir, and surely we can perform a sacrifice for that purpose. He talked about two sacrifices: there's the Putra Kameshti Yajna and there's the Ashwamedha Yajna. So Putra Kameshti, as the name means, Kama Ishti is the desiring very strongly, Putra, to desire a son. He desired a son, and for that purpose you can perform a yajna, he was told. And he was told also that you can perform the Ashwamedha Yajna. And accordingly, he moved forwards, striving to perform the yajna. Now, for performing the yajna, it was told that he needed various things. Among the various things that he needed was a competent priest. Now, yajna is not just a matter of ritual. There is also the performer of the ritual, and depending on the competence of that performer of the ritual, a lot of variation can happen in the quality of the result. It's like if we are doing some scientific experiments, there is a broad procedure that is mentioned, but some students or even some research assistants, some researchers themselves may not be particularly dexterous with their hands. If they're clumsy, then although they may externally seem to follow all the ritual procedure properly, but still they may not actually be doing it accurately, and thus they may not get the expected result. So just as there is a standardized procedure in scientific experiments, and at the same time there is individual expertise that also does play an important role in determining how well that standard process is followed. And while doing any experiment, things don't always work out in the exact same precise way. So if some variabilities occur, then how to adjust those variabilities, how to maintain things precisely, all that requires presence of mind, all that requires clarity of intelligence. And that's why not all the experiments, even if supposedly following the same procedure, will necessarily lead to the same quality of results. And similarly, it is not necessary that when the rituals are performed by priests, not all priests may be equally proficient. And if certain priests are not sufficiently proficient, then whatever they perform, that might not produce the results. And for the purpose of producing the results, a competent priest is the best bet. If one has a priest who is competent, who is proficient, who is diligent, then such a priest is a precious, irreplaceable, indispensable asset for the performance of such sacrifices, such rituals. So when Dasharath Maharaj pondered the prospect of the proposal of performing a sacrifice, he realized that although he had priests whom he respected very much, Still, a special priest who was especially potent in doing such a sacrifice would be very helpful. So now the priest that he decided to call, he was told to call, was Rishaya Shringa. Now, Rishaya Shringa was a very pure-hearted Brahmin, and he, because of his purity, he had acquired certain potency, and with that potency, if he performed the sacrifice, he would be able to do it in a very competent way. Now, Rishi Shringa lived in the forest, and because he lived in the forest, he was not very familiar with the ways of the world. In fact, he was so unfamiliar that he did not even know the concept of the opposite gender. Basically, his father had been a part of a difficult marriage, and when his mother, who had been a celestial damsel, she she begot and then she departed, begot a child. She united with the sage. She had a curse, and when that curse was relieved at that time, she just left. When she left thus, the father felt so deserted, so disconsolate, that he decided to insulate himself and his son from all such grief. Sometimes when we are hurt by something, we become doubly cautious, triply cautious. We sometimes becomes, in the name of becoming cautious, we may end up becoming paranoid. So here, similarly, Shashinga's father said that different Puranas talk about him in different ways, but essentially he decided that he would make sure that his son would never fall to the wiles of a woman. And thus he decided that he would not be exposed to any woman at all. And he, by his Brahmanical potency, arranged arranged his own hermitage where he and his son would live. He arranged that hermitage in a place where there would be no one, there would be no female for several miles around. And when this happened, he brought his son in a very protected environment. Now, there is a thin line that differentiates between protection and deprivation, or we could say protection and restriction. All of them have similar actions, but they have similar different intentions, and they have different consequences at different times. So protection essentially means that we don't want unhealthy, undesirable influences to come upon, unwanted forces, unwholesome forces to come upon and intrude upon what we want to be a safe zone. That's protection. Now, what a person defines as protection, that may vary according to situation, and someone may, in the name of protection, deprive a person of something that is important for one's knowledge or growth. So when that happens, what is considered protection may well become a deprivation. And the protection, this is from the point of view of the growth of the person, and then the protection can also be perceived as a restriction. A child who wants to run here and there, and the mother holds the child in an embrace, a tight embrace. Actually, the child is getting the love of the mother, but the child, if the child is simply thinking of, okay, oh, there's a ball being tossed over there, there's a nice butterfly over there, there's a nice dog over there, I wish I could go to all these places, why I'm just trapped over here in my mother's arms. When the child starts craving for other things, and the same thing which is which is meant to be a protection may seem like a deprivation, may seem like a restriction. So the line between protection, deprivation, restriction, it is not very clear. But in this particular case, by depriving his son of of even the knowledge of the opposite sex, the father may have been well intentioned, but good intention is often not good enough. He had no knowledge of what was happening. And at that time, Rishaya Shringa, when he was living in the forest, Maharaj Shanta, Maharaj Rompad, who had his daughter Shanta. So the sages had told, the sages such as Vashishta and others had told Dasharath Maharaj that if you can get Rishi Shringa to come and perform the sacrifice, because he's a very powerful Brahmin, by his presence, the multiple problems will be solved. So, firstly, it is said that at that the same time, just as Dasharath Maharaj had been earlier afflicted with the problem of a lack of a child, Rompad Maharaj had also been afflicted by that. Rompad Maharaj had got a daughter now, Shanta, whom he adopted, but Rompad Maharaj had another problem, and that problem was there was severe drought in his kingdom. And when the drought was there, because of that, he was not able to. His citizens were in acute anxiety, acute misery, acute shortage of food, and the life of the citizens was at great threat. At such a time, the Rompad Maharaj decided that this is an emergency and emergency measures are required. So Rishi Ashringa, the sages told him that the priests of Rompad Maharaj told him that if Rishi Ashringa comes and performs a sacrifice, then because of his purity and potency, the rain gods will be appeased, and when those gods are appeased, then the rains will shower profusely. And that way, the drought which is there in this kingdom can be removed. Now, the Dasharath Maharaj, on the other hand, was wanting to perform Putra Kameshti Yagya. And there also he was told by the sages that if we have a very competent sage who can perform the ritual, then the chances of its result coming out auspicious increase manifold. So when Dasharath Maharaj heard this, he also became very eager. He asked, who is such a sage? And they told him it is Rishi Ashringa. So when Rompad Maharaj also desired Rishi Ashringa. Now, these two are separate events, but both of them needed priests. And the priest whom they needed was one specific priest, and that was Rishi Ashringa. So Rishi Ashringa was during this time living in the seclusion of the forest. And while he was living there, he just couldn't he just had no idea of what was what, of where the outside world was going and what it was involved in. And as he was living like this, studying his scripture and understanding things, so it was decided that his father had said that he will not be allowed to go out from anywhere in the vicinity of his hermitage. And he being an obedient son, he having no knowledge about the world, bigger world beyond what his father had taught him, he did not dare or even consider venturing away from the vicinity of the hermitage. And so this posed a problem for Maharaj Rompad when he desired to have Rishi Ashringa come out and perform a sacrifice for him. So he decided that he would need an emergency measure. And because of the emergency measure was that he would have to lure Rishi Ashringa to come out of the forest. And with this intention, he sent his daughter Shanta along with her maidservants, and they all went into the forest. Now they were dressed as Rishi Kumars, although they were Kumaris, although they were girls, they dressed like boys. And then they went by the hermitage of Rishi Ashringa while he was meditating. And Rishi Ashringa, while he was meditating, he heard the description, the talks, the conversations of these people. He just opened his eyes and looked curiously to see what was going on. And he was told that he saw that they were actually beautiful looking young sages. So he got up and he welcomed them. He had been trained in hospitality. So he said, who are you? He says, oh, we are sages. Now, they were, especially among them Shanta, she was very beautiful, and she used her feminine charms, batting her eyelids, moving her eyelashes, smiling coquettishly, and all these things she did. And she captivated the mind of Rishi Ashringa, although he did not understand what exactly was happening. He felt simply that, he had never seen see people as beautiful as this. And he wondered who these people were, what they were doing in the forest. He inquired from them, and they said, actually, we stay in nearby. We come from a different land and we come here by boat. And basically, the story was told to them that we are here temporarily. Now, when he heard this, Rishashinga became intrigued. He said, where have you come from? What do you do there? And in that way, the conversation went on. As the conversation went on, Rishashinga became more and more attracted to the beauty of Shanta. And he did not realize that she was a female, but he just felt captivated. And then after Shanta left, at that time when he sat down to meditate, eventually his mind became filled with all the thoughts about her beautiful words, her beautiful conduct, her beautiful form, and he just couldn't concentrate. He tried. Now this if sequence went on for some time, and eventually, even when his father came to know, his father realized that by that time it had become too late. And Rishashringa, recognizing that he had been unaware of what we could say 50% of humanity, he then, with his father, although he was upset with his father's reluctant blessings, he left and he married the daughter of Maharaj Rompal and Shanta. When he married Shanta, and Shanta brought him back to the kingdom, the moment he entered the kingdom, immediately rains showered down. He did not even have to perform the yajna. Of course, he did, as a part of his priestly duties, perform yajnas, and that ensured the sustainable well-being of the kingdom. But along with that, just by his presence, he was able to get the rain. Such was his prowess. Now, we may see these are simply fairy tales, but the point is that way we could accuse all scriptures to be fairy tales. And the reason why they are so enduringly popular, why they have had such appeal, is not because they are fairy tales, but because they tell us a tale that is from a long past, and they give the fair narrative of that tale. When we understand this principle, that they are actually attractive demonstrations of eternal spiritual realities. Now, everything here, everything in scripture may not, of course, be transcendental or spiritual, but especially the pastimes about the Lord are definitely spiritual and transcendental. And when they are understood, when they are relished, they are savored, at that time one gets a tremendous spiritual taste which enables one to give up all lower tastes. So, now Maharaj Dasharath, in the meanwhile, he was still longing for a king, and he just did not know what to do. I was supposed to So Dashrath Maharaj, he decided to get Rome. He decided, at the advice of the sages, to get Rishaya Shringa to come and perform the sacrifice. Rishaya Shringa, knowing that Dashrath Maharaj is also a very powerful king, and that Rompad, he was a close friend of Rompad Maharaj, who was his father-in-law now. So he agreed to come. He had already given up his vow to live within the vicinity of his forest hermitage. He had become now, he was living as the living in the vicinity of the palace, in a palace of his own. So he came there to perform a sacrifice, and it was a glorious sacrifice. Dashrath Maharaj used all his enormous national resources for performing the sacrifice, and he, using all those resources, dovetailed in the service of, in a mood of selfless service. He offered them all, and he longed, he beseeched that his queens who were sitting with him by performance of sacrifice, he beseeched that he be blessed with a son through whom the king would be king's line, the dynasty would be maintained, the kingdom would be protected, and he himself, along with his ancestors, would be protected by the son's performance of royal duties. As he performed such intense rituals, determinedly striving to get the desired result, he also started feeling the appeal, he also started feeling the call of his heart, wherein he desired to uh, have a son. And whereas earlier he had said that he would not be, earlier he had been told that he may not be able to get a son by some priests. He had been told by some priests he would get a son. But when he heard about the when he had heard about the formidable prowess of Shashringa, how he had, just by his presence, he had been able to get the rains to descend. So on hearing this, he became very inspired, and he fully participated enthusiastically in the sacrifices, which were performed primarily by Vishnu. And then when the sacrifices were done, at that time, after he propitiated the Devatas themselves appeared and told that we will bless you. And now, normally the Devatas, they live in a higher realm than we do. That's why they are not visible to us, but we are often seen by them. So Devatas desired to, when they live in the Devatas desire, will they reveal their presence to us. So in this case, many times when Devatas perform yajna also, at that time, they don't, sorry, when the human beings perform yajna to invoke the Devatas don't necessarily appear to deliver the results, or they don't even appear at all. But in this particular case, Devatas, because they had themselves appealed to the Supreme Lord, that, oh, we'll discuss a little bit later, that Ravana, there was a great demon Ramana who was terrorizing the lands at that time, and he needed to be curbed and checked. So the Lord Vishnu had said, I will soon descend in future. And the Devatas knew that such a descendant was going to come in Rama's dynasty. And therefore, when Dasharath Maharaj performed a yajna to get a son, at that time the Devatas themselves appeared in the skies and they accepted the sacrificial offerings. And that is eminently auspicious. And through this, they then reveal themselves, then they praise the Dasharath Maharaj for his fortune in having a son as such a great spiritual teacher. And thus it was that he placed himself by his performance of yajnas, Dasharath Maharaj placed himself in a situation where he could get his sons. And as the yajna went on, how the yajna went on, what were the results of the yajna, what kind of children were begotten. We will talk about this in our future class. Thank you. Hare.